You got the Mac guys here on Birds 365, and we've got Les Bowen joining us. Who likes our return music? He's bopping and weaving there. Gotta love to see it. He's up. He's ready to rock. Maybe more so than the Eagles the last 2 weeks. It's been kind of ugly the last 2 weeks. The sky is falling all over the Delaware Valley. Righteously so, in your mind?
Yeah, a little bit. The sky is descending. Maybe at a little bit slower rate than some people think, but yeah, it was a bracing 2 weeks. It really, I think you start to deal with issues of confidence and cohesion when you get blown out twice in a row like that and embarrassed nationally. I think you're very close to the part where some people are like, well, I did my job. You don't want to get there. And they really need a win this coming Monday in Seattle. But I wanted to chime in on what you were talking about right before the break. I was really impressed with Danny DeVito's grandson last night. But that's just the Eagles' luck. The Giants aren't doing anything but screwing up their draft position, but they keep winning. And
it would be worse if they made the playoffs this year than they made the playoffs last year.
And that was a horrible game, but he's a fiery guy, and he's getting it done. Nothing against him, certainly, but I don't know that this is anything the Giants can build on. In fact, I'm pretty sure it isn't. But
but at this stage, we're first of all, we're Birds 365, so I know they're a divisional rival, so we don't really care what the Giants are building. All I'm caring about is Giants have 4 games left. They're playing like a team that's got a grasp of this 2%, and they want it badly, and they've got a guy who everybody seems to love, even if he's not a true NFL quarterback. It scares me from an Eagle perspective.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes matchup-wise and what if the Eagles manage to win in Seattle, I think they can probably handle the Giants pretty well. But if this skid continues, who knows what the Eagles will be. I've seen
I think
fall apart before.
I think the sky will be falling if they lose in Seattle. Full pledge panic mode. Before you even get to Tommy DeVito and that nonsense. You can see it though. It's already who's with us, who's against it. They're playing the hits. It's like I enjoy when rest his soul, Glenn Bryant, Don Henley, the Eagles play the hits. The Eagles like to play the hits, and it's always, we're the underdog. Let's bring out the mask. Now people don't believe in him. Nick Sirianni could go back to it less.
Right.
It's as simple as that, saying, oh, nobody believes in us. Nobody thinks we can do it. Is that the route he's going to use?
Oh, yeah, of course. And it'll work to an extent. I mean, but they have some problems here. They need to address the problems, to me.
Quick note to Coach Sirianni. They've been underdog 2 weeks running. How'd that work out for him? Play the underdog card at your potential peril, because it doesn't always rally the troops and lift them to the heights they need to get to. All right, pretty simple question for you, Les. The Eagles have fallen on their face 2 weeks in a row. Who's more to blame? Offense, defense, coaching?
Well, that's a nice menu of options you gave me there.
Not special teams.
I can certainly grab a portion of each of those from the buffet.
Right. But which are you digging in percentage-wise more? Offense, defense, coaching?
Excuse my my voice here, but defense is where I start with, I think, because I just think they start out every game behind almost. And the ridiculous, these last 2 games, which is what we're really talking about here. What was it? 10 touchdowns and 11 drives, John, or something like that?
Yeah.
That's absurd. No team can win. I mean, you start right there. No team in the history of the NFL can win with its defense giving up 10 touchdowns and 11 drives. That's absurd. It just can't happen. It puts pressure on the offense and maybe makes people try to, strain for an extra yard and fumble the ball, or, it makes the opposing defense fired up because they've got a lead on the Eagles, and the offense should be doing a lot better. But it starts with this ridiculous performance by the defense, which obviously is not as talented as we thought it was starting the season. But nonetheless, it's not even a professional NFL defense right now.
Yeah, and knowing that, I mean, the third down numbers are atrocious. 32nd in the NFL. I believe they're 30th now in red zone defense. So, I mean, they're terrible on defense. So from that perspective, if you're grading on a curve, doesn't it shift to the offense, to Jody's question? Because the offense is the one that's got to carry this team. And, and by the way,
I said, though, you can't carry a team that's giving up 10 touchdowns in 11 drives.
But you can win a shootout. We saw that in Super Bowl. We saw that Tom Brady. They gave up 505 passing.
Well, that happened once.
Yeah,
in the history of football. Yeah, that happened once.
But you can shoot. Winning shootouts happens all the time. Yeah. You have to play a certain way. Now Dallas came into that game I believe they are the only team in NFL history at this stage to score 30-plus points in their first 7 home games. So they score. Yeah. So even if you have a good defense, and the Eagles don't, I'm not trying to make excuses, you're going to have to win a shootout in Dallas, in Arlington. I'm very specific. And the Eagles knew that. And they didn't score for the first time in the Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts era. They did not score an offensive touchdown. How do you not score an offensive touchdown with Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
That is amazing. And, they fumbling 3 times in Dallas territory.
That helps,
as drives are perking right along, will certainly help in that regard. It's the offense is, and I hate to venture into this area because I'm not a scheme person. I don't really know X's and O's that well, but they don't seem to scheme anybody open. When you're listening to the commentators, they don't, often you'll hear a commentator say, well, look at the design they used to get so-and-so isolated on the linebacker here. You never hear that about the Eagles. They throw it up for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and hope they come down with it. And sporadically, they run the ball like in hard-to-predict clusters, and then they go away from it for a long time. And then they run it like 4 or 5 times in a row again, and nobody really knows what that's about. I don't see what's going on here. Jeffrey Lurie only hires coaches who are offensive innovators. I would like to see some offensive innovation. Nick Sirianni. I don't know what's happened. He came in with some things that worked very well. It looks like he just decided those would keep working forever, a la Chip Kelly. And
that's interesting.
They're not doing anything different.
You see no evolution. They seem to have. I like that description. The assumption that everything's always going to be the same, and other people are adjusting opposing defenses, and they're playing the same way. Yeah, that's a good point, Les. And one of the things, my biggest concern, nobody else other than AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, not one other player got a target.
Yeah,
you see, everybody look at any NFL box scores, 7, 8 receivers.
That used to be Andy Reid's favorite thing in the world. That would be one of the first things he'd mention after the injuries, after a win, would be how many different receivers caught passes from Donovan McNabb. That was a big thing for Andy. And they don't throw to the backs. They don't throw to Goddard nearly enough. I mean, it was his first game back from an injury, but as it looked like every time they threw to him, he was open. And, you didn't see what did he catch? 3 passes, something like that.
And that's like 3 times as much when he was out of the lineup. They couldn't get anybody involved. Albert Ogweg, they waived Christian Ellis, a lot of things. I'm even going to go Howie Roseman on you at some point to say, look at this defense and say, all right, maybe it's time to. They're over investing in the pass rush and they're not getting home and they're ignoring linebacker. They don't have a lot of speed on the back end. They're bringing in all these broken down veterans. Sidney Brown's not ready to play. You know why Sidney Brown's not ready to play, Les? Because they didn't play him. They should have played him week 1. Yeah. Week 1, they should have played him. Kelly Ringo, they throw out there out of nowhere and he can't play. What a shock. He had one rep.
Yeah, it was a disaster. He committed a rare double penalty on that one rep.
Yeah. He gets matched up with CD Lamb.
John, let me ask you a question. Which is it? Play him and live with the consequences, or don't play him? If you're going to say they should have played Sidney Brown since week 1, put him out there. Get it over and done with.
When you
might struggle because he's not ready, but put him out there.
No,
and then they do that with Kaylee Ring. You go, how can you put him out there? He hasn't played in 11 weeks.
I didn't say how you could put him out there. I said you're putting him out there in week 14 against CD Lamb after he's had 1 rep. Yeah. I say, if he got involved. Now, they're different categories because the Eagles have Slay and Bradbury, so it's understandable why Ringo wasn't playing. But with Sidney, it's not understandable at all. Because you were throwing out the Justin Evanses of the world and the Terrell Edmonds of the world. And it's clear you need speed and athleticism in the back 7. And he's got that. And I just think, you know me, Jody, I always go back to Jim Schwartz. I love that term he coined, startup costs. Get him over with. And who knows where he'd be at this point. But now we'll never know. It is what it is.
My issue is we either trust the Eagles and their ability to evaluate practice, which I think is almost laughable because they do so little in practice, and say, all right, well, they must know because they get to see him in practice. Rashad Penny. He never gets in the game. He can't get in the game. But why not Rashad Penny? What is the logical explanation as to never use Rashad Penny? The only thing we can fall back on is, well, the Eagles see him in practice, so they must know that Rashad Penny isn't worthy of playing. Well, the Eagles saw Brown in practice, and they must have come up with the decision. He just wasn't ready to play. That the startup costs were going to be too much because of what they saw in practice. Either we accept that they can evaluate their own players in practice and go, hey, they know better than us, or we question it all, and it becomes open fodder on what the hell is the team thinking about the way they're using their players. Right. I'm good either way, as long as we're consistent about, like, oh, you got to give them put them out there and live with the consequence, or you got to believe everything that they see in practice. It's got to be either open-ended or
there's always context. There's always a sliding scale. They needed a safety. They have a premium pick on a safety. We all
need a running back, John. How many times have you told us the last couple of weeks? The Eagle running back room, those that are playing are just not that good. You don't think they could use the help from the running back?
I'm not Jeff Kerr saying DeAndre Swift is a terrible player. Basically, that's what Jeff said last. But I think he's an above average player.
Yeah, I don't think there's any. If you're looking for things that could be better here, that would make a difference, I don't think there's anything that can happen in the running back room.
No,
that's going to change any of this. The running backs, they did fine against Dallas when they got the ball. Poor Boston Scott does well with his 1 touch a game,
and it's always in the first quarter.
Yeah,
they run DeAndre a couple plays, then they go to Boston Scott. He gets 2 carries, and he's gone for the rest of the game.
Yeah. So I just don't. Rashad Penny question is an interesting one. I have no idea, but I don't think it's going to matter whether Rashad Penny plays or not. I don't think that's the key to getting this back on track. You were mentioning Howie Roseman a minute ago, and that's kind of where I started. I can plug my new venture here, by the way, lesbowensjohn.com.
Nice.
I've lost my podcast, or I decided to stop doing it because the sponsorship wasn't there. So I'm writing again, and I have this space, and my first piece is about if you really want to, it's hard to unravel something like this when a team is having the problems Eagles have. And I'm not going to go unraveling every thread, but where I want to start is with the offseason assumptions about the defense. And one of the biggest offseason assumptions about the defense from Howie Roseman was that Nakobe Dean would be a difference maker and a leader on defense. And, it's not his fault, mostly because he's been hurt 2 different times. He's probably not going to play again this season. It's a Liz Frank, as far as I know, that he has.
It's a sprain. It's not, but he himself, he posted on Instagram. Not a lot of people saw it, but pretty much that he's done for the season.
Yeah,
So,
so that's a total right there. You have a key assumption that just went poof. And that assumption it's a domino effect. That made the linebacking room terrible. It was a shaky linebacking room, but they thought, well, we have Nakobe Dean, we'll be kind of. Well, once you take that pin out, then you have the safeties, which are less talented than last season's safeties, but they were thinking 2 things. They were thinking they had Nakobe Dean, and they were also thinking that their offense was, as John alluded to earlier, going to just outscore everybody, and it wouldn't really matter that much. So you got linebackers and safeties, and then you got the corners who probably weren't as good last year as we thought they were because they were playing so many bad quarterbacks and bad teams. And this year it's, a different setup. The middle of the field isn't as good, so the corners aren't looking as good against better players. And also, it's one thing kind of leads to another with football. Avonte Maddox, that was another big assumption that they had, that they could, with McPherson and Maddox, that they had nickel corner pegged down pretty well. They didn't. The guys they brought in, Bradley Roby and Kevin Byard, great resumes, no results as far as I can see. I just think, again, it starts with me with the defense and kind of tsunamis from there to the offense. But, I think their offseason plan was a bad one. They knew they had to replace 5 starters on defense. And they will brag about Jalen Carter. But all you did there was subtract a really good player in Javon Hargrave and then add a really good player.
Even Jalen, by the way, I don't know if it's the rookie wall, because this is the time of year where obviously you're going past what you would play in college. He's not played the same over the past number of weeks. He was incredibly dominant early in the season, but maybe he can get over the hump. Maybe he can't. I think long term, Jalen Carter is going to be phenomenal.
He is, but my point is, you didn't really make anything better there because you lost a really good player in the defense. So, we were looking at this defense and thinking, well, and part of it is the offense. Part of it was we were thinking, well, the offense is going to be so great, it's not going to matter. But once you took out Nakobe Dean, I think it just sort of went boop, 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 down the line. And this defense is a mess. And it's unless the defensive line gets its legs back and really starts getting after it, I don't know how it's going to work.
All right, let me just slide back just a couple of minutes ago when both you guys were talking about the fact that Jalen Hurts threw the ball to all of 3 players. 3 this past week. Couldn't find a way to get it to either of the 2 running backs or Boston Scott for one of the 3 snaps that he played. But forget about the other tight end, Quez, Julio. Why not claim Zach Ertz this week? Why not come to a contract agreement with Zach Ertz? If Zach Ertz will play for the veteran minimum, which is now down to 4 games out of 17, will not even put a dent in Eagles' pittance of a cap remaining that they have, would Jalen Hurts have the confidence to throw the ball downfield to Zach Ertz out of a 2 tight end set over the last 4 games of the season?
Wouldn't bother me if they did that. I don't know at this point that Zach is going to make any kind of difference there. Like I said, he doesn't really like to throw the ball to Goddard. It doesn't look like to me. So, I don't know. I would do that, by the way, because I like Zach Ertz. I think he's a wonderful person and and he's been a great player for this franchise. And if they can get him, it's being portrayed as Zach surveying his options. I don't know if that's usually the agent telling people
Yeah,
that.
I don't like that. Like, why is it taking so long, Les?
Well, he might have a better option out there at this point, but
yeah,
if he does, he would take it, I would think. But,
that's what I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of my concerns with Zach. But yeah, Zach's a tremendous person. Obviously, he's still heavily involved in the communities. 10 receptions behind Harold Carmichael. So that would be a nice story.
It would be cool. It really would.
Yeah. Yeah. If he could come back and break the franchise record, we'll see how that shakes out. I guess we talked about Howie. Let's talk about Jeffrey. One thing I know about Jeffrey, Les, if you don't reach expectations, there's going to be scapegoats. Doug Peterson learned that. You got to offer somebody up. I don't want to go there just yet, but people are talking about the coordinators. Now, early in the season, Sean Desai was the second coming because they hated the previous defensive coordinator.
And I don't think we made that up. I mean, he was making adjustments. They were working against teams less talented than Dallas and San Francisco. But, I don't think the guy's an idiot, but it's not working now. That's for sure.
No. And Brian Johnson. I mean, Brian Johnson comes in after Shane Steichen, who did a wonderful job and is doing a wonderful job with Indianapolis. He's got them in the playoffs. The playoffs started today, which is amazing with Gardner Minshew playing quarterback. The offense is hiccuped. So now you have this narrative that the coordinators are awful and they should be set adrift in the Schuylkill and immediately
if not
removed from any position. Obviously that's ludicrous, but where are we in the scapegoat category? Who if things continue to go off the rails, who has to be sacrificed?
Well, probably it starts, if I'm guessing, it starts at the position coach level.
Yeah, most likely.
Defensive backs, linebackers, those are new guys without great resumes. You might want to try to get a name coach for those spots. I couldn't help but notice how much the announcers were
talking about Al Harris.
Al Harris, our old buddy. When I first started covering the Eagles, Al Harris was the nickelback. Everybody forgets that on the national broadcast. When he was with the Packers. Blah, blah, blah. He was with the Eagles. A very good Eagle, and always the best dressed fellow in the locker room.
Yeah.
And I happen to. This is really weird, but I happened to spend some time standing in line with Al Harris when Andy Reid's son died, in 2012. I went to the service, and it was way out the church, and around the corner. And I was in line with Al, talking to him about his career. He had just started out as a position coach then. And, that guys like that, he's on the cutting edge of what's going on in defense in the NFL, I think. You're not going to get him unless you're going to fire Sean Desai and bring in Al Harris. You're not going to get him to coach the quarterbacks. But
Jerry won't give up Al Harris.
Yeah, we'll find somebody though that has a resume and has some. This whole thing with Denard Wilson leaving when they didn't give him the D coordinator thing. Maybe that was a problem. I mean, you talk about Kelly Ringo not being ready to play, and why isn't he ready to play? What the hell? It's.
Les giving me ideas. You're going to put it on Les, Bowen, Sean. That's a good, Denard Wilson. You can make a strong argument should have been the defensive coordinator, and he wanted to do some different things. I think he didn't want to subscribe just completely to the Fangio philosophy. By the way, if you watch Arizona play, they don't play the strict Fangio philosophy either. So I think a lot of people need to start pointing at Nick Sirianni because that's the defense that he once played on his particular team. And now Sean is he learned under Vic Fangio, so he'd be playing that anyway.
Right.
But that is Nick Sirianni fueled, so people need to understand that.
It is. However, you mentioned Nick Sirianni's team. At the end of the day, it's Jeffrey Lurie's team.
Well, that's true.
And we know how Jeffrey feels when he thinks his team is not on the cutting edge of what's going on in the NFL. We all remember Doug Peterson winning at Green Bay and being asked how come he ran the ball so much.
Yeah.
Jeffrey's not going to sit there. Jeffrey's not stupid.
Yeah.
He knows exactly, sometimes too much, what's going on in the rest of the league and what people are doing. And he's going to look at this, rightly or wrongly, and think, you better show me some good reasons why we do this.
All right, so let me get both you guys. Let me get both you guys on the record, because the storyline you're portraying is intriguing. If Jeffrey Lurie is going to do what Jeff Lurie's done before, and somebody's got to pay a price, aka scapegoating, to go to the level of coordinator, how bad did the Eagles have to fold it up here at the end of the season for him to walk into, with Howie intact, get the three of them together, coach, general manager, and in his office, and go, something's got to change. We got to make a change. And it can't be a positional coach. Got to be more significant than one of these two coordinators going to go.
Lose the first playoff game.
Yeah.
Get
blown out in the first playoff game. I would say that. Get totally blown out off the field.
They make a wild card game, but keep it close. They get to keep their coordinators.
Yeah,
I think they're playing, maybe. I mean,
I think it'll be position coach. I think Les is right. It'll be position coaches unless they get blitzed and totally like a game against the 49ers or the Cowboys and get totally run out of the building.
But if it's position coaches, it will be position coaches with an assumption that there will be some schematic input from changing these people.
Well, as you point out, Les, they didn't hire like well-heeled, reputation, big resume guys. They kind of just elevated DK McDonald, who was Denard Wilson's assistant. They got DJ Elliott from Temple as the linebackers coach. Not heavyweights. Now, I'm not blaming them.
Yeah, that poor guy. He's been asked to do a lot of heavy lifting without weight.
Yeah, exactly. You can make a strong, and I never agree with, I thought, and then it creates problems with the head coach. That's what happened with Doug Peterson. Let's be honest.
Absolutely. Yes, it is. And it will.
Yeah. And so, but that's down the road. We're getting too negative. But Jeffrey, I'm just pointing it out there because the expectations are so high for this team. And when they don't reach expectations, he tends to look for a scapegoat. The history is there. It's pretty clear.
Well, he will look at Alec Calaby's analytics, and he'll go into a meeting with Nick. Why is this? Why is that? Why? It's not going to be like, oh, buddy, you got us to the Super Bowl last year. I'm so sorry this happened this year.
Doug won one. He was out.
Cry on my shoulder. Yeah. No, it's going to be like, okay, here's this, here's this, here's this. What are you going to do? It's going to be an interesting situation if this doesn't turn around.
Will be very interesting. All right. Let me get you on the record here, Les. In Seattle this week, lost 2 in a row. Got to go cross country. Seattle, and I know they haven't played them in a couple of years, and it's a different team and different player. The head coach of Seattle's been there for a while, but both teams have turned over their rosters a lot since the last time they played. So you can never win in Seattle. Do I really care if the 2004 Eagles went out and got their ass kicked in Seattle? It has nothing to do with 2023, and too many people lean on that.
Right.
But
Russell
this
Wilson,
team,
not there. Yeah,
right. He's not there. Russell
Marshawn
Wilson,
Lynch, not
Jim
there.
Zorn is no longer the Seattle Seahawks quarterback. That's what we need to go back to. Inability of the Eagles to win in Seattle. Don't care. I just care about the 2023 Eagles, where they're at right now. The 2023 Seahawks, by the way, I thought could be the third best team in the NFC. they've been a disappointment as far as I'm concerned. Eagles going to stop the bleeding here, Les?
I predict a close win just because I don't see the whole thing just sliding into the ocean that quickly. But it's not like you're playing the Panthers, you know. I mean, Seattle's lost 4 in a row, but they actually gave San Francisco a better game than the Eagles.
With Drew Lock. Yeah.
Without their quarterback.
Yeah.
And that's it. So I was thinking the Eagles do seem to have tired legs defensively. So I was thinking having the extra day might be helpful here, even though you're going cross country. But then I was reading on a Seattle website that extra day is just the thing the Seahawks need to get Geno Smith back in the lineup.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Always
I
does.
think go in with your fingers crossed. You know, it's not going to be easy.
Very
It's not
difficult
gonna be
place to play.
An Eagles blowout. There hasn't been an Eagles blowout all year. For winning blowout. But I think they ought to be able to get past the Seahawks. But there's no. It's not anything written in stone. That's for sure.
At Les Bowen, make sure you follow Les on X, Twitter. He's got his new undertaking, Les Bowen's John. I just retweeted it so people can go to my
John spelled in the
Twitter.
Traditional way, you know.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about that before we let you go?
Oh, sure.
Why John?
I don't know.
Just a Philly thing that.
It is a Philly thing.
Yeah,
that's why I like it. It's a Philly thing.
It is. But do you think it's oversold?
No. I mean, are the Kelseys oversold? I don't know. I've got to come up.
By the way, I want to apologize because your podcast. I think I was on your last podcast. So
you were. That's what killed it, really.
You brought it down. You crumbled it, McMullen.
I figured. I apologize.
And I'm trying to crumble the John before it ever takes off. So shame my boat.
It's all right. It's a gimmick, but I'm trying to get people to remember what the thing is. And
if he's writing it, the info is going to be great. That's all you need to know. The title is irrelevant, even when I call it a yawn rather than John, just because I don't like the use of the word. Too, eh? Not because of less. I just think everything is John this, John that, John. I just stop with the John. I can't.
Oh, Jody's killing it. Come on, Jody. Les Bowen.
He's a New Yorker. That's a problem here.
I tweeted it.
Like I said, it's not Les. Les, I'm going to read whatever you write because I know how good you are. I don't like the title. I don't like John anything. Okay. It's so.
You're getting scolded by Jody McDonald.
I know.
I apologize.
He didn't consult me about the name of his new comment. Sorry about that.
Poor Les. I killed his podcast, and you're destroying his name.
It's a hard life wherever you go.
Les knows I love him, and like I said, I read everything that Les Bowen does. He could have come up with a better title, but that's all right.
Okay. I'll do better next time.
LB, always a pleasure. We love it. We love when you're right here on Birds 365. Screw everything else you do. We love you right here. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks much. I enjoy doing it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Les.
Our pleasure. That's Les Bowen. I bet you never knew that about me. I don't know if I've ever complained about it on the air. John is a stupid word. I know it's a Philly word, but it's a stupid word. It is so overused, so overexposed, so done. I just get.
I also am not a fan of the word. I agree with you there, but I'm not gonna throw Les under the bus. I don't want to lose Les.
I didn't. Shame on me. Maybe I just did a bad job of putting forth my angst there. It's not for Les. Les is great. I love Les. I do read everything Les does. I've been reading Les forever. He is a great guy. I love the man. I hate the word John. So if we can separate those two things so you understand what I'm trying to say here, I hate the use of the word John for anything.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan.
And Les is the latest one to choose it. So again, apologize to Les, but screw John.
You know me, I'm not a big pander. So, I don't pander to the 4-for-4. I'm not wearing the jerseys. I'm not wearing the pom-poms. I'm not I'm with you. It's overdone.
4-for-4 is simplistic and it's on point. John is this created word that somehow is added its own importance because somebody turned around and changed the letter. It just gets under my skin. All right, quick timeout, come back. We got more to cover, including getting Chris Franklin from NJ.com up here on Birds 365.